Modders are considered to be anyone who modifies or recreates hardware and software. Now, sampling is one of the many artistic expressions of music, but is sampling songs considered to be stealing? Now, first we have to understand what sampling is. Sampling is the portion of a piece of music that has been taken from its original format and edited, looped, or manipulated to create a new recording. To understand copyright, we have to travel back 300 years to the United Kingdom. This period was considered to be a very exciting period. For the 50 years between the 1660s and 1710, millions of books were being printed thanks to the new invention called the printing press. Over the 50-year period, works of authors and published books went from only in the thousands to the millions in existence. This was great news for those wanting to spread their knowledge to others around them and share their work. However, it was also considered a bad time for those wanting to make money off their work and protect what they had created. As a result, the British decided to introduce an act known as the Statute of Anne, which was the first copyright law enacted. The law protected all creative works that were claimed by any individual. The law was said to encourage and protect new ideas and to motivate the generation of ideas to improve society. This seems like a great idea. However, over the years, the law has been adopted by many countries and readapted in terms of the length of time a particular piece of work can be protected for. Initially it was 14 years, of which an author and publisher could protect their work. The next major improvement to the law was an extension of the time of protection to 42 years or a lifetime of the author. Now, in Australia, under the 1968 Copyright Act, it is extended to a full 70 years of protection after the author has died. The law still protects the misuse of any artwork by anyone who claims copyright. Now, due to the increasing online presence in the creation and distribution of art, new intellectual property laws were created to adapt to this new medium. Now, for someone like me, I know all too well about copyright. One of my favourite hobbies is to produce music, or at least to try to. But every time I create, or edit, even sample, I have to be aware of copyright laws. Ethically, I believe it's wrong to steal and claim someone else's work. But as Photostatic believes, a melody once played or an idea once spoken is the property to all whom have heard it, and to protect these things is to never speak nor play them. As they state, silence is the only defense against plagiarism. Now, digital sampling only emerged as a household musical production tool in the 1980s with the development of MIDI and computer protocols. This technology allowed users of computers to manipulate, edit, loop, and soundbake sounds on their computer that has been triggered using an MPC or Music Production Center. One of the first successful releases of early house music was a track called Pump Up the Volume by Mars. The track was highly successful, both commercially and as a track that used samples from other tracks. However, the tracks also set a precedent for all types of sampling of previously created works. Moral panic soon followed as MIDI technology allowed anyone to edit an original track and potentially claim it as their own. Now, the group Mars was taken to court over this incident by one of the samples creators called Roadblock by Stock Aitken and Watermans. The case was settled with Mars having to pay an undisclosed amount for breach of copyright as they did not ask for permission to use the sample. This case set the standard of sampling and the procedure involved with sampling any track from any artist. This is a procedure I've experienced before. Being an amateur producer, I find it difficult to be creative without the constraints of copyright and intellectual property laws. However, after hearing a song from a super DJ group called Everybody Make It Drop, I decided to sample the lyrics and essentially remix it. Although remixing can be argued to be different from sampling, I still needed permission in order to state that I have remixed their track. Right now I'm going to show you two tracks. One is the original track which I found, and the second is a remix. Now, the snippet that you see is actually both of them in the one track, and it doesn't contain all of the songs, it just contains the samples. So it might seem a bit out of place, but this is generally how I cut the samples, and it is integrated into my new remix. So that was the original track that you heard, and now we're going to take a listen to the samples that I took from the original track to make my own remixed version in the following. The remix I created was positively received, and after being asked if the sounds I used were sampled or not original, I made it a priority to make sure everyone who heard it knew that besides the samples I had used from the original track, that everything else was my own creation. And now this was the first time that I have been hinted of not creating something original. I then decided to make sure if it was okay for me to use the samples from the original track. Now all three of the artists of the group allowed me to use the samples and love the remix. Since then I have made sure that I properly credit the right persons, not only because it's legal, but also out of respect. Today there are two views of sampling which are still being debated as to whether it is considered a legitimate art form. Now either sampling is considered to be stealing or someone else's work, or paying homage to an artist's creative talent by reimagining it in a new genre, setting, or creative way. But essentially, to answer the question, is sampling considered stealing? Well, by law, you have to ask permission to use or reuse another artist's work in order to avoid legal action.